Out of the 68 operators in Rainbow Six Siege, there are a hidden few that are very powerful that you're not playing. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you the top 5 operators that you need to start playing that are wildly underrated. Let's get into the video. Coming into my number 5 spot is going to be Ying. Ying is by far one of the most underrated attackers in the entire game. Everyone knows how powerful she can be and how annoying she can be, but nobody is playing her. Her pick rate is at an all-time low right now. She has a very good LMG with over 50 rounds, a 1.5 times scope or a 2x scope depending on what you want, very low recoil, and it's overall just very easy to use. So she has a good gun, she has a good gadget, she has a good secondary gadget, so why is she not being played? Well, most people think that she is bad right now because everyone is playing Warden, but that's not necessarily the case. I guarantee you can count on your one hand how many times you've played Warden and actually had to use his ability. It's not many. Most Warden players actually forget that they're playing Warden and they just run around with his gun and die within the first 30 seconds of the round. So playing Ying is still extremely viable. You're also able to still throw your Ying Candelas at Warden and shoot him anyways, even if he has his ability active. So it's not really a valid excuse to single out Ying as not being good in this meta just because of Warden. So if Warden's not the issue and she has an amazing loadout, what is stopping anybody from just playing Ying? Well, the answer is nothing. Ying is an outstanding operator. She has the second to highest win rate out of everybody on attack right now, and that is for PC, which is really, really good. If she has that high of a win rate, you would imagine that more people would play her, but like I said, her pick rate is very low, and by definition, making her an underrated operator. She's extremely versatile as well. You can use her Ying Candelas fully charged to get kills, or you can use her Ying Candelas only half to 1 bar of charge to take space. She also has smoke grenades to help with the plant, or like I said, you can play her in a fraggish way by fully charging your Ying Candelas or putting your Ying Candelas through floors to be able to secure kills easier. Time and time again, it has been proven that operators with a 1.5 times scope completely shine in this meta. Oryx, Warden, Thorn, and Alibi all being great examples of why a 1.5 can make or break an operator. Not only does Ying have a 1.5 on an LMG that has no recoil, but she also has the 2x scopes and both of the ACOGs. So Ying overall is a very good operator and very underrated. So if you don't play her, I recommend you start playing her right now. Coming into my number 4 spot is going to be Flores. Flores is an outstanding operator and everybody knows he's an outstanding operator. So why is no one playing him? Well, let's go over his loadout to better paint a picture for you. He has the AR-33, which is an okay AR, and he has the SR-25, which is a okay DMR. So his primary weapons are just kind of okay. They're not too terribly good, but they're not too terribly bad either. They both equip the 1.5 times scope, so if you still want to be in this meta of 1.5 times scopes, Flores fits it perfectly. If you also want kill potential, he has flash grenades that he can bring to further secure easier kills. So he does fit the meta, but he also brings a lot of utility. You know what else is in this meta heavily? Deployable shields, a zombie barricades, and bulletproof Fenrir devices. Flores can counter all of this with just 1 or 2 drones. You can kill half of the entire team's bulletproof utility. The only counter here being Mozzie and Mute, but most people aren't playing Mozzie and Mute because most people aren't droning on attack, so they don't really expect people to be droning, therefore they're not playing these operators that counter Flores. This being said, most people aren't bringing operators that counter Flores, so it would be a great idea to play him because 1, nobody's countering him, and 2, he's very meta like we talked about earlier. Also, even if you're not destroying all of these bulletproof gadgets, you can be destroying barbed wire, you can be destroying soft walls, you can be playing vert with him, you can even just use his drones as distractions to flush out players who are on walls, or so that people shoot them and reveal their positions. Overall, it's a very versatile gadget. Not only does he bring 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 of these explosive drones, so he's very powerful when you do use him, he's very easy to use, he's very meta, so why is no one playing him? Well, I'll tell you the same thing that I told you with Ying. There's literally no reason. He's an outstanding operator and he's highly underrated. His pick rate also is not the best right now, but his win rate is still pretty good. So if you don't know who to play, maybe you want to play more in a flex style of way, but you still want to bring a 1.5 if you need to get kills, Flores is definitely the operator for you. Coming into my number 3 spot is going to be Gridlock. Now, Gridlock is very underrated, and I've talked about this in most of my YouTube shorts and on my Twitch stream, which you can go check out, link in the description. But there are certain maps like Villa or Clubhouse, for example, where it's very hard to play a Nomad because most of your air jabs are easily shootable. Gridlock does not have this problem. You are easily able to shoot the Gridlock tracks, yes, but like I said, on some maps, you're easily able to shoot the Nomad air jabs too. And all it takes for a Nomad air jab is 1 bullet with a suppressed gun, and they don't know you're flanking. With Gridlock tracks, they have to shoot multiple bullets multiple times to be able to destroy the flank device, giving you a lot more of a sound cue and a lot more of a time to react to the flanker who is trying to break your flank watch. Not only this, but she brings EMP grenades, which aren't very meta. It makes it to where you don't have to bring a Thatcher, but you can also destroy electronic utility and help your people on the wall get the wall open faster. If that wasn't enough for you, she also brings smoke grenades for the plant. Gridlock Gridlock is a very plant-heavy operator. Not only do tracks make it to where they can't rotate to you or flank to you whenever you're planting, but they cover the sound of the plant. Pair this up with her smoke grenades, and it makes a very plantable environment on certain maps that favor Gridlock. Not only does she have EMPs, smoke grenades, a good gadget for flanks and for site takes, but she also has a Gone 6, which is great for bulletproof utility like zombie barricades, like deployable shields, and it can make or break whether you're able to make that site push that I was talking about previously. If all of that wasn't enough for you, maybe you're a frag player that doesn't like to play 3 armors that much, well, she has the perfect gun for you. Her AR is amazing with a good amount of damage, an okay fire rate, a great magazine size, and here's the catch, a 1.5 times scope. Like I talked about on the previous 2 operators, a 1.5 times scope can make or break if an operator is comfortable to play and good to play in certain gunfights. So Gridlock is the all-in-one support package that can still frag out if necessary, which is outstanding for every single type of player that you would have. So if you're not playing Gridlock already, then what's stopping you? She's an outstanding operator, and I think she's highly underrated. With that out of the way, let's go into my number 2 spot. Coming into my number 2 spot is going to be Echo. I have talked about Echo time and time again being an outstanding operator and a sleeper pick on most defenses. I have tons of videos, tons of YouTube shorts and TikToks where I have Echo lineups that you're able to use in-game effectively to get free kills with. Most people play Echo incorrectly, and that is why he's not played as much, because if you play an operator wrong, you're typically not going to get the most amount of value out of them, leading you to believe that they're not necessarily a good operator. But Echo is outstanding. Now, not even going into his ability or his guns, let's strictly talk about the fact that he has a deployable shield. Now, just like the 1.5 times scope, a deployable shield can dictate whether an operator is played or not. You see this on operators like Alibi and Smoke, who lost their deployable shield, and now most people are opting out for other versions of them. Just like people stopped playing Smoke when he lost the shield and they started playing Fenrir, people stopped playing Alibi and they started playing people like Thorn and like Warden. Echo has this deployable shield, so if you're ever lacking a shield or you want to play an operator with a 1.5 times scope and a shield like you used to be able to do with Alibi, you can do this on Echo. Echo is great for getting frags if you play with his Echo cams correctly, so if you still want to get frags, Echo is definitely your operator. Now, we can start to go into his actual loadout. Like I said, he has that 1.5 times scope, which is wildly influential, but he also has it on an MP5, which is silenced and has more damage than the MP5 that comes on the other MP5 operators. Not only this, but he also has a Bearing 9 machine pistol, which has a good amount of fire rate and it is overall reliable secondary weapon. And then we go over his actual yokai cameras, his main ability. This is the most misunderstood ability in the entire game of Rainbow Six Siege, and I'll tell you why. Most people just throw their echo cams around wherever they want to, and they don't really think twice about it, just using echo cams for information or to stun the diffuser when it's going down. This is terrible, and you have to stop doing this with Echo. What you need to do as Echo, because his cameras aren't invisible anymore, is you need to hide them in very specific places. Once an attacker is near that specific place or that specific cam, you need to hop it out of the hiding place, stun the attacker, or just with your MP5 swinging from wherever you are. Either way, Echo is an outstanding operator that most people misuse, and if you want to see more about how to play him correctly, I have a YouTube video which I'll put at the end of the video. Overall, Echo is outstanding, and if you aren't playing him, you need to be, especially if you are a support player looking to maybe refresh in the operators that you play. And before I get into the most underrated operator in the entire game of Rainbow Six Siege for Year 8 right now, I'm going to go over to honorable mentions that maybe didn't quite make the cut, but you wanted to see on this list. The first operator I'm going to go over is Fuse. Now, Fuse's ability is not that great, and that is why he is not played most times, and he didn't quite make it into the top 5, but everything else about Fuse is outstanding. Fuse has the best weapon in the entire game, the AK-12, with the best scope in the entire game, the 1.5 times scope, which I've talked about time and time again, so I'll stop talking about it right now and just get into the reason that he's so underrated. Contrary to what you might have as an opinion, Fuse has the #1 highest win rate out of all attackers right now for PC ranks. This absolutely does mean something, but it's not for the reason that you may think. Like I said when I was talking about Flores as an underrated operator, Fuse is able to destroy bulletproof utility. In this meta with 1.5 times scopes, there's a lot of bulletproof utility as well. You have zombie players, deployable shields, Fenrir gadgets, and much more. So Fuse is able to destroy all of this because he essentially has 20 frag grenades that he has with his ability that are able to be remotely detonated. If you're able to use this in a tactical way by either A, playing vertically, or B, detonating it remotely and then cleaning up with kills with your AK, you're able to get some free ranked wins. Not only is he good in the higher elo, which is where those statistics that I talked about earlier came from, but he's even better in lower elo, which I know most of you watching are in between about gold and silver. So if you're looking for an operator that is very easy to use and gets a lot of value if you do use him, Fuse is definitely your guy, but he's not necessarily in the top 5 like the other operators I have listed. My second honorable mention is going to be Melusi. Now Melusi, again, is an underrated operator. Her win delta reflects this, as she has the 3rd highest win percentage out of any defender on attack right now. But is she that good of an operator even though she is underrated? The answer is kind of. Her ability is good, and the only really good thing about it is that it is completely bulletproof. So it takes a Flores, or it takes a fuse or frag grenades to be able to destroy the ability unless you just shoot it within range. The only thing that's bad about her that made it to where she didn't make the top 5 cut is 2 things. One, she's a 3 armor. Now, Gridlock's a 3 armor, but she brings so much more utility and so much more effective utility that it's not even a fair comparison to make. Melusi also doesn't have a 1.5 time scope. She only has the 1x scopes. Not to mention those 1x scopes come on the MP5, which is not that great of a weapon, especially for people who are starting out in the game or maybe are in the lower ranks, because it doesn't do much damage at all. Melusi's gadget is great, sure, in some situations, but I don't think that she's good enough to warrant being an underrated operator, and that's why she's in the honorable mentions list and not in the top 5. Now that we've gone over the honorable mentions, let's talk about the number 1 most underrated operator right now for year 8, and that is Goyo. Goyo is an outstanding operator. He's very, very good, especially for ranked, and there's so many reasons why this is the case. Not even going over his ability and his playstyle, let's just talk about his loadout. First of all, he has a Vector, which is already a great gun, as you know by playing Mira. Second, he has a 1.5 time scope on this Vector, which we talked about earlier being very influential. If you don't like that though, he also has the TCSG, which is good for sight setup and holding long angles with its 2x scope. Next, he has impact grenades, which is very good for roaming. A lot of people play Goyo in a way where they just set down what they need to set down in the prep phase, and they kind of just run around and gun with his 1.5 time scope on the roam. If you have impact grenades, this makes roaming and escaping the roam even easier. It also makes it to where you can explode your Goyo canisters from a distance without having to expose yourself by shooting them, so it makes playing Goyo even safer. This gives him so much playstyle flexibility, meaning you can sit on site and play off your Goyos, or you can run around with a 1.5 time scope and just gun people down. Either way, he's very easy for every single type of player in the game to learn. But I think the best part about Goyo that makes him so underrated is the fact that you don't even need to use the utility. Your teammates can also use the utility, which again leads into his playstyle flexibility, which I talked about earlier. So if that all is not enough to get you to play Goyo, then I don't know what is. With that out of the way, that's it for the entire video. Sub to the channel down below, check out my Twitch when I'm live, and that's it. I'll see you later.